Lauryn Epstein here. I'm excited about attending my first Social Recruiting Strategies Conference in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, this August 6th, 7th, and 8th. Over 3 days, you and I will be immersed in interactive learning experiences that'll teach us today's most effective recruiting strategies and techniques. The world's best recruiting experts are coming from CVS, Siemens, and AMC networks, amongst others. Don't miss out on the fun and learning. Register today at socialrecruitingstrategies.com. Here's the deal. My friends at Brazen have spent the last year writing the book on recruiting chatbots. It's jam-packed with tons of the best practices and examples of companies who are successfully using chatbots to hire the best talent. We're talking companies like Walgreens, USAA, and Presidio. And because you're a listener of my show, they want to send you a free copy of the book. Just head over to brazen.com/chatbots to get a free copy today. You can get a copy sent to your door for postage, or you can download the digital version right now. Don't wait, because the book is flying off the shelves. And as a bonus, if you sign up today, they'll send you their #1 downloaded ebook on winning the war for talent. Again, go to brazen.com/chatbots to get all this for free today. Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Lauryn Epstein Show. I'm your host, Lauryn Epstein. Today, I get the pleasure of having a friend on the show.
Oh, thanks.
I want to welcome Lauryn Sargent. Lauryn is the co-founder and partner in Stories Incorporated, which is located here in Washington, D.C. I was fortunate enough to be in a workshop with Lauryn when she was leading a conversation about stories and employment brand at the local Recruit DC conference, which was fantastic. And I am a huge fan of stories and found her passion contagious. She is most proud of how her team is helping to improve the world of work by helping organizations discover and communicate what's true and unique about their employee experience, while also giving candidates insight so they can make informed decisions. Lauryn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And the reason you're on the show is because, aside from talking about stories, is that both of us are going to be going to the Social Recruiting Strategies Conference.
Yeah,
in
I'm
August.
excited.
Yeah, very exciting. So I know you're going to be speaking, and so we're going to talk about, kind of what you're speaking about and what people can expect to get. So first, did I do a good job introducing you?
Yeah, that's perfect. A perfect job. Talking about what I care about, what my company does. So thanks, and the fact that we're friends.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you were so nice. I mean, I remember you invited me out for coffee. Yeah. It was really cool because most people don't do that around here. So the conference is in August, and it's now July, almost July, I guess, end of June. What are you getting ready for, and what are you going to be speaking about?
Yeah, I am going to talk about moments that matter. So that really matters in story content. So really understanding from really helping practitioners and people trying to create employee branding content, finding the stories within their company, and so that your content isn't generic. So finding the moments that matter. It's, questions like, when's the moment you knew you made the right decision to join an organization? But really understanding that that's how we do a better job with our recruitment marketing content and employee branding content, which is to give to candidates insight and really highlighting the moments that matter to employees.
I like that, moments that matter.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great, it kind of makes it all make sense, right? Because I think if you think about, I can think about times when I was either hiring someone or going for a job interview, and there were like a couple of moments that really made the difference.
Yeah.
Did you have those when you were working?
Oh, definitely.
What's one that you can remember?
Yeah. I'd say one moment, there's lots. The first one that comes to mind, and I've mentioned, I think it's come to mind because I've mentioned it before, is when I was accepting a job. So I was really excited about it. And the director of HR, so it would be to build a recruiting function at a company that had zero. Even though they were publicly traded, they were doing very well. They did not even have a recruiting function, which is crazy to me. But exciting for the right person. Like, I get to go in there and build it. So
recruiting managers are never hired because things are going well. We're always hired because either nothing's there or things are going to pot.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that should have been the tip off. But I mean, during the interview process, I was excited about the fact that I was going to be able to create something. And I had come from executive search, and part of the verification process for candidates had been to send in to ask for W-2s to verify compensation. So while I knew it wasn't typical, I offered, hey, do you want to see my W-2? As we're in the negotiating phase. So I made that offer, like, I'm happy to send you my W-2 if you want to verify my compensation. So the HR director said, yeah, that's great. We would like to see it. Please fax it to us. Here's the fax number. So great. So I'm like, final stages. I'm really excited and can't wait to get there. So I faxed it in, and then I get a call like, oh, it didn't show up. I said, oh, okay, I'll go refax it. I'm going to check the number. Is this the fax number? She said, oh, no, I gave you the wrong number. And I said, oh, so did I just fax all my confidential information to a random person?
Wow.
And they said, she's like, I am so sorry. I'm really embarrassed. I'm doing a million things, and I couldn't focus. I'm so sorry. I'm so And so we got it all straightened out. But the point was, that was a moment that mattered to me because I was even more excited. They really need me. They're total, like, she can't even focus on like all the candidate experience. I can get in there, and if this is what it's like, and I say that lovingly, we became friends. But
right.
If this is what it's like now, I mean, I can make this so much better.
So it's interesting because you interpreted her not getting it done right as, oh, they need you.
Oh, overwhelmed. Like, she's overwhelmed.
Yeah, because a lot of people would have a different interpretation about that. Like, people might have an interpretation like, oh, they don't have their act together, I don't want to work there.
Yeah.
Or they don't have the resources, I don't want to work there. But your interpretation was very forwarding.
Yeah, well, and I think that makes sense for entrepreneurs. We always want to go build it. We always want to like improve upon. So yeah, for me, you're right. Most people may not, and that's also a good story that would weed out the right person, the wrong person.
Yeah.
You're right. Some people would say, forget it. I'm like, you guys don't have it together. But the right person is attracted to that type of mess because it was messy. That is an indication of what the current state was of, and it's not because she wasn't with it. I think it probably also helps that during the recruitment process, as well as you can get to know somebody. We had started a relationship of trust, and I knew she was doing the best that she could. So I already had goodwill towards her. I knew it was just she's overwhelmed. Like, I knew she was overwhelmed.
Interesting. So I remember my first real job after college. I worked since I was 15. So I graduated in my early 20s. And I remember I called up this high-tech company. I wanted to work at a high-tech company in the Bronx after I'd interviewed. And I was at the National Tennis Championships in Queens. And I remember calling them from a payphone and getting the offer. And I'll never forget that. That was like, I will never forget that moment of they wanted me, I got the offer. It was, in hindsight, I remember it being easy, or relatively easy, to get that job. It was great.
But this was your first job, right?
It was my first job out of college, yeah.
Yeah.
My first real job.
Yeah. I've also worked since I was 15, so I hear you. And like, the first real job there is a distinction. So
Yeah, sure. The real job.
Again, real job meaning like out of college, professional job.
Yeah, I think we had benefits. I don't remember. I know I probably
I get health insurance. Wow. Yeah.
Back then, everyone probably had it.
You get 2 days off. Amazing. Paid. Well, yeah, I know. Low expectations sometimes for your first job.
So you're going to be talking about how a company can kind of reach into their narrative and pull out stories that matter.
Yeah. How teaching recruiters how to do it.
Okay. So I'm a recruiter. What would you say to me if I was going to learn how to find stories that matter?
Yeah. I'd say the first would be pick the team. So if you've never done
this before. You mean a team to do this?
Yeah, pick a team to do it with.
Like how many people?
Really doesn't matter. I think if it's your first one, it's helpful if it's small, just so that you can learn.
2 or 3?
Yeah, 2 or 3. Especially, well, maybe a little bit larger, but someone that's having a real recruiting problem.
Uh-huh.
So, one thing when you pick a team is you think about, I don't know if this is happened to you, but there used to be teams, when I was in recruiting, there would be a group that I just knew, if I can get the candidate to the interview, it's done. The team is so awesome. Yeah. So the idea is to pick a really
that never happened to me.
Really?
No, it happened. Okay, good. Of course, you have great interviewers and you have bad interviewers.
Yeah, and you just know that like the projects they're working on. Yeah. So like the point is to pick a team that's having some kind of recruiting challenge, but also a team that you trust that has a great culture.
So the recruiting recruiter is working with the hiring manager or the people who are on that team that you need to create a story for.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I would do.
All right. So you have
And
3 or 4
stories,
people.
not just one. I would do it in several. So think of it like a campaign almost.
Okay, but a bunch of stories is the output. But it needs the help.
Yeah.
And then what do you do when you have your group?
Right. So then depending on the group, what I would do, depending on the size, I would spend one day interviewing those team members, being very respectful of people's time, of course.
And when you interview them, what are you asking?
Yeah. So you're asking for, tying it back to the moments that matter, you're asking for actual stories. So not just like, I love working here, we're like family. That's not helpful to anybody. It's not insightful. That's what candidates are hearing all day long.
So imagine I'm one of those people. Interview me. Let's pretend like I'm the hiring manager for a group. We need help. You're going to help me.
Yeah. So when's the moment you knew that you made the right decision to work on this team?
When I came to work and my boss and my coworkers welcomed me, like really welcomed me.
Yeah. So tell me what was different about this experience than any other company you worked where you were welcomed on your first day.
A lot of jobs where I go to work, I'd show up and nobody would say anything for weeks.
So what specifically happened on the day that you came that made you feel so welcome?
Well, the first minute that I was there, my boss took me aside, talked to me for an hour, and then I sat down and I met with my team, with my boss for like an hour. And then my boss left and I could meet with my team for an hour. And they were kind of like facilitating and I was facilitating. We were getting to know each other. It was a formalized getting to know each other.
Oh, okay.
Then we all went out to lunch, and then we came back. We had more of that kind of facilitated getting to know each other. So it was very intentional. It was all focused on me learning what it's like to work there and them learning about me.
Has this intentional time with you been a pattern through your work experience so far?
Well, just here. It's just here, not really anywhere else.
Yeah. So from your team, what are some other examples of when they've been really intentional with things that they're doing to help you feel prepared and welcomed?
Well, I think when people start, the team kind of organically will put together things to decorate the person's office, and they'll maybe put some snacks or drinks so that the person, when they come in, it's not like an empty desk. Can you give
me an actual example of how that's happened?
So when Sarah started, they put a sign saying, "Welcome, Sarah. Here's some snacks. We know like what your favorite snacks are," which was really nice.
So I could probably do this for long. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. This would be the start of the discussion.
Sure.
But
so now you have these stories. Okay, and then what do you do?
So then what you do is you would take, so for example, let's say the welcoming, you were saying that you were so welcome and they decorated your desk, they found out your candy ahead of time, all those things. So we would say things like, depending on what the content's going to be, we would say, okay, so how do you want to bring that to life for candidates? We can make a quick video of it because everything's recorded, or we can write a blog post. Do you have a photo of it actually happening? We would love to see, to have some kind of visual of that. But really from there, so like from one interview day, we get something like, we get a ton of stories. We've made like up to 20 videos in even just one interview day. So the idea is that we would have a lot of content to pick from, and it's more thinking about how you're going to, what medium are you going to use to bring that to candidates. But if I'm trying to be highly instructional about, like doing this type of work and creating the content, I would say first you're going to interview the entire team. And then you're going to then get everything transcribed, and you're going to pick the stories that are most impactful, and then you're going to create content from there. So the idea is that once you can have this broad view of your interview day, and really by interview, it's like maybe 20 to 30 minutes per person is still enough to get a lot of really good content.
And then you take that and you edit it down.
Right.
To like a couple of minutes.
Yes, and it depends on your use of the content. So for example, like one story you could use on social, a 30-second clip, 15-second clip. You could use as a blog post that for SEO value, and you could use it for a LinkedIn post. You could use it on your career site. It just depends.
So what you're saying is like, first thing is to collect particular kinds of content, and the content is stories, but stories that have a compelling theme. Right? And a compelling theme would be something about people that matters. It's not like I came to work and I got to my desk and my desk was clean. That's not a good story. A good story has some more human element. It would touch me, make me feel something.
Right. Well,
so when you're like hearing a story, you're thinking, how am I feeling during listening to the story?
Yes, but I think also more is like, so of course emotions are important and like that's memorable and like hard-hitting and that's interesting content. So of course that's gold standard, but I would say that for us, we're looking more like how does this reflect your culture? So for example, as we're talking, you said a couple things about this, just like intentional process. So you were talking about the mechanics of the day, 1 hour here, 1 hour here. That's less of the of the importance. That's the mechanics. It's more of like this intentional team culture and really making sure, and the thoughtfulness of making sure what someone's candy is.
Sure.
So getting stories like that then to create a theme around to show candidates.
And whether it's
like.
so I would say, even just to rephrase it, you don't really put a judgment on what you're hearing, but you isolate the themes and you highlight the themes. And those themes may not be for everybody. They may not even sound good. Like I would imagine if your first day of joining the military is not like a lot of good stories.
Right.
But those themes are what make people want to join.
Exactly. And to the point of like polarizing content. So it needs to be true. Like the themes that you can gather, you're hearing that it's true, that these are people's experiences, is what matters to the people that work there.
It can't be fantastical,
and
or totally aspirational, because people come and then that's not going to be
totally it. That's the worst thing, right? If it's just like pie in the sky, everything's awesome, you get there and it's your expectations are different, they don't match reality.
Honesty is 100%
terrible, right? Terrible.
Okay, so now I have these stories. That's great, actually. I mean, we got it seems like the process is pretty straightforward. Collect the stories, you curate the stories, and then you figure out all the different channels that you would put the different stories in.
Correct.
Because you're saying video, images, text.
And if we're being instructional about like how you would do this, if you're a recruiter that's just starting, just putting your toe into brand. I mean, starting with a team, starting small is great, but then once you have a success story, and that's why I also said find a team with a challenge, because then you can kind of prove that it works. You can find, especially a team that
prove that this methodology works.
Right. Well, the content works, because at this point, if you're just starting with, you have to prove the organization that like branding is important and like stories are important and culture insight is important. And I don't know about, for me, I was doing that one-to-one all the time. I was telling stories all day long on the phone, but there was no scalable way to do that. But you can do that with your content. So I think it's important to prove the worth of marketing in general if you're just starting as a recruiter in your organization, if you don't have a brand function.
And they don't believe it. So now I've got my content, now I've got my channels. So what is generally the efficacy of these things? How effective are they?
That's a good question, and it really it depends.
I love the word efficacy, by the way.
Me too. It's
a smart word, but it really says exactly what you need to say.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say so. Like it depends, and I'm not trying to skirt the question. It just depends on so many factors. It depends on if your channels have been built already.
Okay, well let's just say so there is efficacy. I think the question is there efficacy in this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There? Oh yes.
So the question is, what is the efficacy, and that depends on.
That depends on how engaged your channels are already. So if you have a following, or if even your marketing department has a following, corporate following, the fact that you're putting this content out, you can see how story content compares based to general marketing content.
Right. And what else are some of the what are the other reasons why it would make?
I'd say distribution. So of course what your audience is already, but just how you're distributing and how often and when. So for example, like if you put being very thoughtful and testing a lot. So one of my I guess mentor type figures, Laura Sylvia from Rally Recruit Marketing, says a lot about how in marketing, it's totally fine to test things. You're always testing.
Right.
And it's been hard for recruiters to realize, to make these mistakes just in terms of learning and testing. So constantly testing how well your content's performing. So it could be, did it not perform well because you posted it Friday at 3? Is that not the time for your audience? So all those things matter to how your content performs.
Sure.
What we like from a very not basic level, but like in terms of views and clicks and things like that. But then for us, what we care about, what Stories Inc. cares about, is the substance of the content, because there's a lot of noise out there. So for example, Expedia is a good example. That's a client of ours. So they use story-based content on their LinkedIn channel. They got 4 times the click-through rate. So sure, that's a good metric to have to be able to do other projects. Expedia can say, oh, we got 4 times the click-through on LinkedIn compared to other content that we're putting out there. But what's most important is that the people who are viewing it are having some kind of opinion or reaction or feeling about what they've seen.
Yeah.
So candidates go, up to 18 places before they actually apply somewhere.
Right.
So it's hard to measure if, someone watches a video and then goes to apply. All this.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah. So the question I have is, if, I'm a small, medium-sized business, and like, okay, I'm a recruiter. I'm not a marketer.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have time to do all these things. Like, okay, maybe I can collect the stories, but then what? Like, I mean, let's say I can afford to bring on a Stories Inc. That's great, and you'll do all that. But let's say I can't. How much time is this going to take, and how long do I have to do it, and what's the tempo of my process?
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a good question, because you'd have to know so many. There's nothing that I could say that's prescriptive to all small businesses and this is exactly how long you have to do it. First of all, because my expertise is in the content creation, it's not necessarily in the distribution, but I've learned a ton about distribution and cadence and things like that. But I'd say it would be hard for me to give that advice without knowing lots of factors, and also I'm not an expert in the space. It's not like I'd say, do it 5 times and then...
It's funny because we're in the same space, right? So I create this content that people are listening to right now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. And we put ads in from our sponsors, and I can say how we should put a show together and how we should tell a story. But distribution, I don't know distribution.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hear you. And we know that it takes somebody six times before a message sinks in.
Yeah, I've heard 9.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I've heard
but it takes a
12
while.
For sales.
12, yeah.
For sales, yeah.
When you think about how much information we are bombarded with.
Yeah.
Now, I like the idea of branding your company with these stories because people are now, particularly young people, so the Z generation, that's like 24 and under. So people who are just getting out of college the last couple of years, and they're young, right? So this is going to be going on for a couple of decades. They're over 90% likely to use a cell phone. They're over 90% likely to check the heck out of any company before they go work. That's a lot.
Well, so yes, definitely.
They're like your model. Yeah. They're like your models, right, for what you're trying to do.
I think for me, it spans all generations, because even if you were looking for something something new, which I know you're not, you've got a great business that's growing. But if you're looking for something new and you're not that,
are you making an offer?
It just means you're not that
what kind of benefits?
But every person wants to know insight. Every person wants to know what they're walking into, what the real deal culture is. Everyone's searching for insight.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, a lot of people don't. On the recruiter side, I can tell you, a lot of people come to companies and interview, and they may not know some of the basic things. I don't think you would think that, but it's not the common experience. And I say not the common experience. It's not the common experience for every job. It may be some true for certain white collar workers, but not the truth for a lot of workers. Because some people are just I just need a job. In fact, most people in this country just need to work.
Yeah.
They're not picky about the job. They just need a job to pay the bills or get benefits. And I don't think those people are I wonder what it's like to work here. They're I hope they get a paycheck.
I hear you. There is a segment of the population that is that way, but I'd say there's also our unemployment is at historic lows. Companies are definitely having problems. People do have choices for sure of where they can work. Lots of people have lots of choices.
That to me, it's a good question. We should diverge for just a second because we have all the time in the world. That there is a low unemployment rate, and the N1, which is that unemployment rate, the U1, which is that unemployment rate, while it's consistently measured, I don't think it's accurately reflecting our economy, because a lot of people are working, but they're working at jobs that pay a lot less, and their options are a lot less because salaries are so depressed and benefits are so depressed. And a lot of them are contract workers. More people now are contract workers. What they call the gig economy, which I think is a sexy word for you're a contract worker and you're an outsider. You're not going to get benefits.
Well, I think gig economy also makes it seem like it's your choice.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
You're deciding on
I got a gig.
Lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's my lifestyle. It's my gig. Yeah.
Like a band. We got a gig.
Right.
It sounds cool.
It's cool and it's your choice. It's your thing that you're deciding to do, as opposed to being forced into you'd rather something else, but instead you're in the gig economy.
Totally. There was no time that I wanted to be a contract recruiter. It's just that there weren't full-time recruiting, or the company wasn't hiring a full-time recruiter. But I wonder, and I know, look, everything that we do in talent acquisition is not directed to the entire population. In fact, most of it is really just directed to, hard to find knowledge workers, people like that, right? Because that's where the competitive talent is. And so all the things that we're doing are really for that. But I always wonder if there are things that we're doing that become so ubiquitous and so cheap that we can then push it off to folks and give the people in other jobs the benefit of the stuff. You know what I mean?
Thinking about it. Yeah. I'm thinking about it. Say it again.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, I'll give you an example. So applicant tracking systems, right? I don't know what applicant tracking systems a rendering house has in West Virginia, but if they had one that said, oh, hey, Mary, you just applied for a job, and we don't have one, but here's 4 other places where you could go work.
Oh.
Right? That would be nice. I don't know if they do that. I would kind of doubt it because, you know.
Yeah, because the company's buying the system. Yeah. So
yeah. But there are systems like that for the higher. Anyway, it would be nice to see what you're doing, you know, become ubiquitous, become part of, so that every company, when they're talking about our branding, is talking about the employee branding and forming it in the way of a story.
Oh, I agree. And I think that also, when, you know, at the top of our show, you were talking about like the purpose of I feel in my work, and being able to, if all of our content was so specific that people could make a better decision, you know, that would be awesome. If every company had really specific information about the work, you know, the cultural experience, I think that would be really great for candidates and companies.
And when you tell the story, do you think of it as a story arc? Is there a particular story format that you're looking to put together?
No, I think it's pretty organic. I mean, we do know the mechanics of the story. At least our company does understand the mechanics of the stories, and we're all writers and come from, like, you know, so we definitely understand the classical elements. But we do try to keep a ton of it conversational as well as organic. Yeah. So while, you know, and on topics we know that will resonate. And of course, there's always, like, you know, the current, you know, problem, what happened, you know, the resolution, all those things.
Yeah, right. So the 3 parts is like the background, the tension, the resolution. Yeah. Is that a model that you guys?
I think that comes naturally. It's natural, but it's not something like we have this classic definition. It's mostly, yeah. And I know that your models also for your shows are highly conversational too.
Well, but I'm also in my mind thinking like, okay, what was the background? What's the problem? What's the resolution? And kind of going back and forth through that. Are there other models that you use?
So I'd say that we really don't use any classical model. I mean, we do understand those things, but it's not something we're dissecting at that level. It's like fairly organic, conversational, and then we actually usually have people tell us the same story several different times, so we can edit it for clarity, and for context, but quick context. So I'd say that, like, we do understand the classics of storytelling, but we aren't taking like the story and storyboarding in a way that is like this incredibly academic way.
So it's interesting because I love Joseph Campbell, and if you're listening, you don't know who Joseph Campbell is, you got to read Joseph Campbell, and he talks about the hero's journey. And I think there are so many jobs that would really like sing using the hero's journey. Which in the hero's journey, if you don't know it, it's like a circle. So at the top, at the 12 o'clock position, is where the person starts, and they go off on an adventure. They're called to something. There's a calling, and you know, like around 2 o'clock. They go from their world into a completely different world. And you see this in movies like Star Wars and other, it's very common now in movies. And as they go through it, they have challenges and they survive the challenges. And then when they come back, they come back with something. So they come back to their world. They transition back to the world they started with something. And I think like maybe the military may have used that a couple of times, you know, like when they show the kid and he comes in and now he's dressed in this uniform and he's super you know, focused and disciplined. And I think it really would help in that it makes jobs more personal.
Well, and yes, and I also think for like the story I shared about walking into something where you can transform. I mean, it's like you're going to go through something. There's going to be a challenge that you're going to emerge as an expert, and I think a lot of jobs are like that. I think I would assume that most organizations, I know this thought would occur to me, are, you know, really hesitant to air your dirty, this is a real mess, you know? Yeah. It starts with, you know, the job description starts with, this is a real, like, shit show. So I don't think that most, you know, I think that that's a hesitant
I would love that. Right? Like if somebody actually posted that, because I'm like the kind of guy who's like, yeah, great.
See?
Because I've worked enough. I know like most places are that way. And if they're honest about it, great.
Well, and I gotta say, it could also, so yes, that makes you trust the company more because they're being honest. So they're like, you start there, that's a good point. And it could also be.
And that building opportunity.
Yeah. And like this is a good opportunity for you to, you know, same thing with me as a recruiter. Like I was a really great recruiter and now I can be a manager and build, like, there's so much to do here.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're right. I think that, but I guess the question though is that which is, if that's the truth, that's fine. That's good to be really honest about that. But then some roles don't have the luxury of being the building block to something else.
No, that's true.
Yeah. But you have to be realistic about that too.
Yeah.
You know, hey, this is the job that's going to be,
Right.
you go in, you do it, and it's done. You know, this isn't going to be the thing you're going to be thinking up at night thinking about how to make better. It's going to be the thing that is already crafted for you to walk in. And that's great, because then there's people who want that. You know, there's people who just want that experience too.
So I recruited for the TSA. When the TSA first formed in 2002, Congress said, well, you got to hire like hundreds of thousands of those gate agents, the TSA agents. And what they did was they got a bunch of guys, and no, there were no gals, a bunch of guys to go around the country to all the airports and set up these assessment centers. And they'd have different sized teams, and they'd assess thousands or hundreds or lots of people and put them through the assessments and then pick who's going to be in and who's going to be out. And I hired the guys, and it was all guys, I hired 38 of them, who were assessment center directors. Mm-hmm. So the way I sold it was, because we had a very short amount of time to get these people hired, was, and I didn't know really anything about story back in 2002, I said, this job is all of the responsibility and none of the authority. And you're going to be without resources, and you're going to be traveling all over the place, and it's going to suck. And I said it like that. Yeah. And everyone who said yes, they were all former military, they were all older guys, and they all just embraced it. And they were great.
The tenure was high, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, and my guys lasted the longest, because they hired like maybe another 20 or so, or 30, and my guys from our company stayed on the longest. And it was exactly as I said. It was not any different. Yeah. And so I knew exactly what it would be, because I figured it out. And I told them exactly the truth. And it worked.
So I think that's awesome. And that's also the way that I recruited too, to be like, that's awesome that worked. I think one pitfall, which in hindsight I wish that I had done a little bit better with the reality, is that once we got, people into the organization on the, reality, and these are people who are, expectations are set and they're, the tenure is good. It was hard to make cultural changes, because if people are retained, if people are staying and they're not leaving because the expectation is set, sometimes there needs to be some kind of event, whether it's people voting with their feet and leaving, to make change that's needed.
Sure.
Because otherwise it's like, great, we've got the status quo covered.
Yes.
It's terrible.
Yes.
I mean,
everyone's coming for the status quo. Yeah. And the status quo sucks.
Yeah, and hey, we did our job as recruiters because the tenure is good, but there's no innovating or making things better necessarily. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think we should come back again. We're gonna wrap up, but I think we should come back again in the future and talk about how do you create stories to change culture.
I'll do my best. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna be at SRSC August 6th, 7th, 8th in Philadelphia. Right? I will be there.
Okay. We hope we see some people there. I hope everyone's ready to eat these sandwiches.
Yeah.
I do like a sandwich tour.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah. There's like 4 places in one day I will have.
Are you going to Gino's?
Yeah, that's one.
Okay. I'll go with you.
Chicky's another. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, cool. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
With me has been Lauryn Sargent. You can follow her on Twitter at...
Lauryn Sargent, Lauryn Sargent. Yeah, on Twitter.
Cool. Awesome. And with Stories Inc. Yep. You can check that out on the web. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of The Lauren Epstein Show. I'm your host, Lauren Epstein. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Here's the deal. My friends at Brazen have spent the last year writing the book on recruiting chatbots. It's jam-packed with tons of the best practices and examples of companies who are successfully using chatbots to hire the best talent. We're talking companies like Walgreens, USAA, and Presidio. And because you're a listener of my show, they want to send you a free copy of the book. Just head over to brazen.com/chatbots to get a free copy today. You can get a copy sent to your door for postage, or you can download the digital version right now. Don't wait, because the book is flying off the shelves. And as a bonus, if you sign up today, they'll send you their #1 downloaded ebook on winning the war for talent. Again, go to brazen.com/chatbots to get all this for free today. If you want to sell more to HR and TA professionals, we can help you bring your brand into the ears of over 100,000 decision makers around the world. To advertise on this and other shows, contact us at lauren@laurenepstein.com. I'm excited about attending my first Social Recruiting Strategies Conference in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, this August 6th, 7th, and 8th. Over 3 days, you and I will be immersed in interactive learning experiences that'll teach us today's most effective recruiting strategies and techniques. The world's best recruiting experts are coming from CVS, Siemens, and AMC networks, amongst others. Don't miss out on the fun and learning. Register today at socialrecruitingstrategies.com.